The warning is clear. Intel reports say a staged attack is on the horizon. One so massive, it could make 9/11 look like a dress rehearsal. Israel's blueprint is simple. Unleash terror on US soil, blame it on a convenient enemy, and watch public opinion sway back in their favour overnight. Support skyrockets, propaganda goes into overdrive. War drums start beating. And meanwhile, the architects of the plan tighten their grip on power. After the Kirk assassination, Netanyahu and the globalist elite are desperate. US support is collapsing. Their backs are against the wall. And now, they're reaching for their oldest weapon, the false flag. The only question left is whether we'll be fooled by the same playbook yet again. Before we dive in, I need to tell you about a new service that helps you protect your online privacy from hostile states like Israel. Our partner VP.net isn't just another VPN, it's the next evolution in private browsing, built with unbreakable zero-logging architecture. That means no logs, no backdoors, nothing for the deep state to snoop on. Visit vp.net/TPV for more. Evidence is now surfacing that Israeli-linked security forces were present at Charlie Kirk's assassination, and they stood down. Even more disturbing, sources say the crowd at Utah Valley University was crawling with federal agents, even more than on the Capitol steps on January the 6th.
Of course, it was wedged between the two giant Israeli bodyguards the whole way.
If you want security, the Israelis know what they're doing.
Exactly. So it was not the vacation I planned, but...
The same man, caught on camera flashing hand signals just seconds before the fatal shot rang out, is the very one who rushed Kirk away. Not into an ambulance, as you'd expect at a large public event on university campus, not to trained medics, but into a waiting SUV. As the official narrative around this assassination unravels, it's starting to look as nonsensical as the 9/11 story. The lies aren't slowing down, they're multiplying and growing wilder by the day. Take the explanation for why there was no exit wound. According to the surgeon at the hospital, the bullet absolutely should have gone through, which is very, very normal for a high-powered, high-velocity round. I've seen wounds from this caliber many times, and they always just go through everything. But now the story's been stretched so far into absurdity that we're told to believe these impossible events were a miracle. It was an absolute miracle that someone else didn't get killed, says Andrew Colvett from Turning Point USA. His bone was so healthy and the density was so impressive that he's like the man of steel. It should have just gone through and through. It likely would have killed those standing behind him too. You're not buying that, are you? Believing Charlie's neck could stop a .30-06 cartridge from 200 yards is as ludicrous as thinking a Saudi passport miraculously survived the 9/11 crash site unscathed. In reality, a .30-06 cartridge literally penetrates through steel.
Well, guys, call the Sniper Academy, because look at that group right there. It couldn't get too much closer than that. The 30-06 went straight through with an almost identical hole to the 308.
Yet NPCs will gobble up whatever narrative the elite dish out, no questions asked. And this is how the global elite keep their grip on power, through propaganda, through false flags, and through the constant terrorizing of the gullible masses.
So now we got Al-Qaeda sleeper cells laying in wait. They came across Joe Biden's open border. It was all his fault. He let them in here. No, it was the Jewish organizations that lobbied our fucking politicians, and it's AIPAC that controls our politicians, and it's AIPAC and the lobbyists that forced our politicians, by blackmailing them with most likely the Epstein files, to open our borders wide open. They turned America into the child trafficking capital of the world. They allowed 30 million illegal immigrants to come into our country, and they specifically used their NGOs to specifically move their fucking CIA assets and their Mossad assets into play.
When you hear the usual suspects in the Mockingbird media warning of Al-Qaeda and Iranian sleeper cells, you should think Mossad mercenary death squads, carrying out their duty to wage war through deception and trickery. That's actually their motto. You can fact check that.
How many more times are we going to let Israel attack us on USA soil before we start all acting like Candace Owens? Candace Owens a top G. Let me show you guys this. This was a couple months ago when they were trying to get us to go to war with Iran. And Candace says, you can't even make this up. It's almost cartoonish. Totally legit. Iranian sleeper cells are going to attack on US soil is now to be expected. And it said, Rude awakening. Iranians threaten Trump with sleeper cells. Terrorist attack on USA soil days before the nuclear strike. Come on, guys. Okay, the first thing we need to talk about. Do you guys remember? This was probably like 10 or 15 years ago under the Obama administration when they literally brought a journalist out, a fake journalist, and they brought him out in this script, in this movie theater. And they told us, this was the video we saw. We literally watched, and it looked like ISIS literally beheaded a US journalist or a foreign journalist out in the middle of the desert. And come to find out, it was all staged and fake. So check this one out. Check out what Jim Ferguson, this guy, I swear. Okay, so the first person I want to point out is this Jim Ferguson dude. He's literally like the gaslighter in chief. Check out this video that he just shared here. You know what I'm going to do you guys a solid? I'm going to have my boy Truth Teller fill you in on exactly what was in that video. It was staged, Mossad. Those are Mossad actors, literally paid actors to try to stroke fear, and now they're going to try to set it up like it was Iranian terror cell hit squad because they got to cover up the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I mean, this shit's getting out of hand, and they can't cover it up. The amount of people that are probably searching was Israel involved with assassinating Charlie Kirk is probably upwards in the millions at this point.
Don't believe the global elites and their Israeli henchmen are capable of pulling off a false flag terror attack on US soil? Well, they've done it before, numerous times, as Charlie Kirk began informing his vast audience of young, influential American conservatives, just before he was taken out. That's how dangerous this information is. We have the details of what they're planning coming right up. Today's sponsor is pillsforever.com. If you think Big Pharma have your best interests at heart, think again. The price of medicine in America has skyrocketed, and there are certain medicines Big Pharma don't want you to know about. That's why I've partnered with pillsforever.com. All of their FDA-approved medicines are the cheapest you'll find anywhere. More importantly, you can order medicines that Big Pharma don't want you to have, such as ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and fenbendazole. Speaking of fenbendazole, not only does it get rid of parasites that live inside your body, there have been studies that show fenbendazole can help with cancer. Listen to this bombshell interview with Mel Gibson, who says 3 of his friends who had terminal cancer were cured by the very same ivermectin and fenbendazole available at pillsforever.com.
I have 3 friends. All 3 of them had stage 4 cancer. All 3 of them don't have cancer right now at all. And they had some serious stuff going on.
And what did they take?
Jesus. They took some, what you've heard they've taken.
Ivermectin?
Fenbendazole.
Fenbendazole, yeah. I'm hearing that a lot.
They drank hydrochloride something or other.
Get 15% off using coupon code People's Voice at the checkout. Please click the link below this video to take advantage of this fantastic offer. From the sinking of the USS Liberty, to the assassinations of JFK and RFK, and then to 9/11 and the wave of fake ISIS beheading videos, American history is littered with moments of foreign intervention and hidden hands. And they all share one thing. Each changed the course of history, just as the American public was beginning to turn. Each one gave the elites a chance to bend reality, distort the facts, and manufacture a new wave of support for Israel. In other words, the perfect false flags. Now, as US support for Israel hits an all-time low in the wake of October the 7th and the Charlie Kirk assassination, we're expected to believe that Al-Qaeda or Iran is about to attack the US. How convenient. This is the same trickery and deceit Mossad boast of using to wage their forever wars. And the same deception that Charlie Kirk began warning the world about before he was taken out.
Charlie Kirk openly questioned the story Israel was trying to tell the world about October 7th.
I think some questions need to be asked. Was there a stand down order? Was there a stand down order? 6 hours? I don't believe it. I've been to that Gaza border. You cannot go 10 feet without running into a 19-year-old with an AR-15 or an automatic machine gun that is an IDF soldier, right? The whole country is surveilled.
Charlie Kirk started asking the awkward questions, and immediately the Israelis summoned him for urgent talks. He turned down Netanyahu's offer, hundreds of millions in funding, in exchange for softening his stance on Israel, and he refused to let Bill Ackman's intervention in the Hamptons sway his public position. Why? Because he knew his audience was waking up. They weren't going to swallow the globalist propaganda all over again, not when the next false flag comes calling. As Tucker Carlson told Piers Morgan, it's time to call a spade a spade.
No, of course I didn't allege that, the Jews did it. I don't even know what that means. I think, in fact, saying things like that is a way to discredit real questions.
Right.
Like, we know, Benjamin Netanyahu on camera right after said this is a good thing because it brings the United States into a conflict that we've been involved in on an existential level for decades. He said that out loud. I'm not guessing, you can pull the tape. We know that a group of Israeli art students, who clearly were not art students, clearly some of them were aligned with Israeli intelligence, were arrested and held for quite some time in the United States before being released without charges. And we know that a group of them, again, I'm quoting an FBI document here, not the internet, filmed the attacks on 9/11, and I'm quoting, seemed to have foreknowledge of those attacks. Now, you were not allowed to follow up in any of this. Fox News did a series with Britt Hume and Carl Cameron, which many people have seen in a bootleg version on the internet, but they did it like within weeks, saying, what is this? There was an Israeli spy ring in the United States, and they clearly knew 9/11 was coming. This is Fox News. They pulled that under pressure. They pulled that off the internet. It's not searchable in any Fox News archive, but they aired it. I know the people who did it. Of course, I worked with them for years. They're real people. They're not crazy. In fact, they're pro-Israel, but they had a fact set before them, and they reported it, which is called journalism, and subsequent generations have been forbidden from noting what is now factually true. Those are factually true statements. Now, we tried to interview some of those people. One lives in the United States, in California, and made no headway whatsoever. And we knew as we did it, by the way, that we're going to be attacked as anti-Semites or something.
Netanyahu has a history of playing both sides. For years, he's funneled tens of millions of dollars into Hamas, keeping the enemy alive to justify the fight. It's all smoke and mirrors. The global elites have always used terror groups as tools. Just look at Syria. Obama's Pentagon was funding one side of the civil war, while his CIA funded the other. As Matt Gaetz put it, that's the globalist game. And if we're not careful, they're about to play us all over again.
There's also another country that asked Qatar to support Hamas. It was Israel. In 2018, Netanyahu himself sent a secret letter to the Qatari leadership. In that letter, he urged Qatar to deliver $30 million a month to Gaza. He said this funding would help reduce the motivation of terror groups to carry out attacks, prevent a humanitarian crisis, and preserve regional stability. So in May of 2025, Netanyahu publicly admitted that since 2018, his government had allowed Qatar to transfer money to Hamas in Gaza, and that was according to his own request. That policy was approved by the full Israeli security cabinet. So if you believe Netanyahu himself, he went from asking Qatar to send money to Hamas to bombing Qatar for not extraditing Hamas.
He doesn't think this serves Israel's interests or the United States' interests.
Yeah, it really doesn't. Qatar just gifted the United States a $400 million jet. Israel sending bombs in return is one heck of a thank you note. On Capitol Hill, Florida Democratic Congressman Jared Moskowitz is deeply concerned about foreign governments running influence campaigns online in the United States.
It is totally rampant, allowing foreign governments to just perpetrate these platforms, all of these bots, all of the time to weaponize Americans. You see what's going on here? This is a byproduct of all of that. What's going on in the streets is a byproduct of all of that.
Well, that just sounds awful. We wanted to learn more about these foreign governments that Representative Moskowitz was talking about and their paid influence operations. And lo and behold, a foreign country has just signed a $45 million deal with Google to spread propaganda. It's Israel. If you don't care at all about Israel or Qatar, you should at least care about U.S. military equipment being used in the most stupid of ways. Israel has the F-35. Qatar has U.S. Patriot missile batteries. Is American hegemony in 2025 really watching our own air defenses shooting down U.S.-funded bombs launched from U.S.-made planes? This reminds me of Syria, when forces funded by the Pentagon were fighting forces funded by the CIA. This week, U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson held a meeting with AIPAC and Jewish leaders on Capitol Hill. Several reports out of that meeting suggest Speaker Johnson committed to screen potential congressional candidates to ensure they are aligned with the current policies of the Israeli government. I asked Speaker Johnson about this, and he offered this response on record exclusively to our program. When asked if he was going to screen candidates in this way, he wrote back, "No. Shocking that I would be misquoted. The discussion was about general support for Israel, which has obviously been declining. Christians are called to support the people and nation of Israel, but not necessarily its politics. Speaker Johnson didn't fall into this trap.
Those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed.
Those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of, it says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my... You pull out the phone and use the Google.
It's in Genesis. Is the nation
They're the
God's
descendants of
referring
Abraham.
to in Genesis, is that the same as the country run by Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
Yes.
It is.
I guess we can say this about Mike Johnson. He's probably got a higher IQ than Ted Cruz. Qatar is an ally. I know that because we have a U.S. military base there. Since Vietnam, no country that has willingly invited U.S. military bases has been bombed by U.S.-funded weapons. We see increasing evidence that Netanyahu wants forever wars in the Middle East. That's not good for Israel. That's not good for the United States. It's just good for Netanyahu. And his goals sound really awful.
But the fact is now Bibi and the Israeli hard-right government has a mandate. I got to be careful the way I say this. They're going to try to ethnically cleanse Gaza. Yep. I mean, I don't use that term lightly, okay?
The only way to stop them from doing it again is to recognise the pattern, to study the real history, and to spread the truth to as many people as possible, before the cycle repeats and we find ourselves enslaved. Here at The People's Voice, we're determined to continue exposing the crimes of the global elite, but we need your help. Subscribe to the channel, tell your friends and family about us, and join the People's Voice Locals community for exclusive and uncensored content. We can't do it without you.